everybody, welcome back to my YouTube channel where I talk about writing, books, philosophy, and pretty much whatever I want. My name is Kate. Thank you so much for being here. So, today's video I'm going to talk about the 5 books that I read in the month of November. Gotta be honest with you, November was a bit of a struggle with reading. I mean, I read a lot of great books, but then, as we all know, a little thing happened in early November, which honestly took me down a couple of pegs, and so I'm sorry that I haven't posted as much. But reading just wasn't quite hitting the same way this month. It wasn't giving me the escapism that I needed, but I did read some great books this month. So let's just go ahead and jump into the first book I read in November. Just like in my other monthly wrap-up reading videos, I will be featuring my Goodreads reviews. The first book I read was Emily Wilde's Map of the Otherlands by Heather Fawcett. I don't have this book, so here's a picture of it. This is the sequel to the Emily Wilde series. I learned that it's not a duology. There is going to be a third book, so that's exciting. I didn't enjoy this one as much as the first one. I think the first one had way more coziness. I thought the world was more immersive. I thought the dynamic between Wendell and Emily was better. The second one was still enjoyable, but I don't know, there's just something missing from it. I can't quite put my finger on why I felt that way. I said in my review, the vibes of the first book were better, in my opinion. I love the wintry feel of it. The overall coziness felt more tangible. That's a good word. I wanted to love this series, but I don't think they're for me. They were enjoyable, but these were just fine overall. Both books follow a similar pattern, chapter setup and resolution. Most of the chapters are super long. I'm not somebody who really likes really long chapters. Then there are a bunch of shorter chapters near the end. There's a climax left on a cliffhanger. Then the very next chapter is Wendell writing in Emily's journal explaining why the action easily de-escalated. I guess cozy fiction isn't for me. I need more stakes. And as I've said before, if you're going to do a cozy story, the vibes need to be immaculate. I honestly don't care about either of our main characters, and I cringe whenever they show affection towards one another. I don't think they have chemistry. That being said, I did love this quote. I must confess, I am in awe of you. I believe I am also a little frightened. I like that quote. I also said that it didn't help that I was reading this during a more scattered time, so I couldn't really focus on it super well. But okay, so I read this in early November, right? And honestly, I keep thinking about both of these books. Even though I wouldn't say that either of them are a favorite, I still think about them. Something about both of them has gotten under my skin. So maybe with time I'll end up buying both of these and adding them to my collection, I don't know. But there is something about them that I really do enjoy. What I enjoyed most about both of these, honestly, was the coziness and the way that Heather Fawcett writes settings and landscapes. Honestly, that could be enough to enjoy a book. I rated this one 3 stars. I rated the first book 4 stars. The second book that I read in November was Get a Life, Chloe Brown by Talia Hibbert. I don't have this book either. I got all the books I read this month from my library. This is kicking off when I picked up a bunch of romance books to deal with what was going on in the world at that time. And I really enjoyed this. You know, like, I don't think of the romance genre as a genre where I have a lot of favorites. It's just fun and lighthearted to read. It's nice to get happy endings, read a bit of spice if you're into that, or just wholesome, nice connections between people. So I picked this one up because I knew that one of my favorite booktubers recommended this series like a few years back. This was so funny. I laughed out loud so often. I guess I should tell you what it's about. There are these 3 sisters. Chloe she has fibromyalgia. I think she's constantly in pain. And she's a website designer, if I'm remembering correctly. There's this guy in the building he does work in the building. They kind of have a flirtation. She's super like type A, and he's getting over a bad breakup, but they are drawn to each other, and it goes from there. That was probably a really bad synopsis of it, but it's really cute. I laughed a lot. This was very steamy in certain parts. I think Talia Hibbert is really funny. There were some points where I thought it was like, okay, this is a little too much banter. I love that Talia Hibbert writes romance novels for a diverse group of people. First third of this had me laughing out loud quite a lot, which is interesting, contrasted with Hibbert herself, who seems to be more quiet and understated when she speaks in real life. I said the only reason this isn't higher is because I don't know why. So yeah, that's just the state of my mind in November, I guess. I rated this 3.5 stars. The third book I read in November was Beach Read by Emily Henry. Emily Henry is probably my favorite romance author. I know that is a very popular take. She's just such a good writer. She weaves in real world dramatic things into her stories, and I really appreciate that a lot. Now, instead of me trying to tell you what this book is about, I'll just read you what Goodreads says. A romance writer who no longer believes in love and a literary writer stuck in a rut engage in a summer-long challenge that may just upend everything they believe about happily ever afters. They challenge each other to write each other's genre. So he's gonna write a romance book and she's gonna write like a contemporary fiction or something, and obviously they fall in love and it goes from there. They've known each other their entire lives, but there's a very real thread in this of grief that our main character is dealing with. I don't remember her name. And same with the love interest too. He went through a really bad breakup and he had issues with his parents too. I think it was his dad, if I'm remembering correctly. Beach Read is considered to be, I think, one of Emily Henry's best. I think because when she wrote it, she wasn't expecting people to want to read about grief, but people did. I think this book has like over 1 million ratings. Yeah, 1.3 million ratings. When I first started reading this, I thought, this reminds me a lot of Book Lovers, which is another Emily Henry book, which I think initially put me off because I was thinking, why write a book that's so similar to another book you've already written? But even this isn't solid criticism because I too, as a writer, have an idea for 2 different stories that are mostly similar except in genre. This book does something that I really hate whenever it's in romance books. Immediately after the 2 characters have sex, conflict happens. Like immediately afterwards. Just something I don't generally like when it happens. I didn't really care for Gus that much. Okay, that's the love interest. He was fine and he says all the nice things that male love interests are supposed to say, yada yada, but I just don't care much for the I'm a tortured man thing. I also didn't really care about the bet the 2 characters made, and I honestly forgot about it most of the time. I think if I had to say what I liked most about this was the letters that January's dad wrote for her. I also lost my dad when I was 13, and I would have given anything to have more pieces of him like January. It made me cry just a little. That was really beautiful. That was towards like the last fourth of the book, I think. The rest of the book was very well written and enjoyable, just not my favorite. I've read 4 Emily Henry books so far, so I rank them here. Happy Place being at the top, then Funny Story, then Beach Read, then Book Lovers. I'll also say this is definitely not what my brain assumed this story would be about based off the title and cover. There's much more heart here than they both suggest. I rated this 3.5, 3.8. It was good. Okay, the 4th book I read in November was Take a Hint, Dani Brown by Talia Hibbert. This is book 2 in the Brown Sisters trilogy. I have the 3rd one downstairs, I just haven't read it yet. I loved this book. I thought it was so cute. So this follows Dani and Zaf. Dani is the middle sister, I think. Zaf is the security guard at this school where she works, and they've sort of had a flirtation, but neither one of them really ever thought that the other liked them. A video goes viral of him carrying her out of this school or whatever it was, and people start thinking, oh my god, couple goals, you know, whatever. It goes from there because Zaf has this nonprofit, I think, where all the media attention starts helping him. So he's like, can we pretend to date so that, you know, this can help me and it can, you know, help you too, because she wants to sleep with someone essentially because she's frustrated. But this was really, really, really cute. I loved the yellow cover. I don't know why, but I gravitated towards that. I enjoyed this one even more than the first. I loved Zaf's character. He was sweet, thoughtful, and safe. I thought it was really cool that Hibbert had him enjoy romance novels, run a nonprofit for young boys to help them become in touch with their emotions, and that Zaf himself struggles with anxiety. He was probably one of my favorite romantic interests I've ever read. I thought part of this was a little overly wordy with internal dialogue, but not too much. I've noticed something about myself recently when reading romance novels. Around the 60% mark, I'm just ready to be finished. I've been feeling lately like I wish there was a little more action or intrigue for our characters to deal with or something. Lately, I've gotten a little annoyed with the third act conflict. Their reasons are always a bit eye-roll inducing, but I know you always need something to keep the protagonist and love interest from getting together immediately, but sometimes I wish it wasn't an emotional reason. I think maybe what I'm discovering about myself is that I enjoy romance novels when there is maybe a little bit of a magical stint on it, like X-Hex, or I want to read this Secret Society of Irregular Witches. What you gonna do? Like, I think that adds something to it that I enjoy more than it just being some like emotional conflict. I gave this 4 stars. And finally, the 5th book that I read in November was Tomorrow, Tomorrow, and Tomorrow by Gabrielle Zevin. This was easily my favorite book in all of November. This was so well written. This author did an incredible job. She lists at the back all this research that she does of the gaming industry to put this together. This follows our 2 main characters, Sadie and Sam. They've known each other ever since they were little because Sam had this accident and his foot is really badly incapacitated and he doesn't speak at all, but Sadie draws him out because they start playing games together in the hospital. This kind of jumpstarts this whole life that they have together. They meet years later at university I think she's going to MIT and he's going to Harvard, if I'm remembering correctly. They just start making games together and they become super successful, and it's just about their lives, the story that takes place. There's not like, it doesn't feel like it follows a traditional arc in stories. It's just their lives and how intertwined these 2 people are. Like, they are soulmates, but they never become romantic interests. This book really focuses a lot on the importance of friendship and how friendship can mean more than romance sometimes, and I just adored this. This was easily one of the best books I've read this year. I cried twice. One was an ugly cry, and I adored the story. I've played all kinds of games ever since I was little. At one time I had a Wii, a Nintendo 64, GameCube, 3DS, and PS4. Plus all kinds of card and board games. Side note, nobody in LA ever wants to like play board games. It's really annoying, but if you're out there, I hope to find you soon. I resonated so much with the messages in this story that time and reality are essentially an illusion, and the importance of friendship and play can be more meaningful than romance. By all intents and purposes, this should be one of my new favorite books of all time, but it isn't. I will say that there is something about this book that kind of dragged me down a little bit. I felt, it's not that this is a nihilistic book, it's just there's some really sad things that happen in this. There's this one scene with this one character named Marks that if you've read this, you know what I'm talking about. That chapter will live rent-free in my head probably forever. I was generally always excited to pick this up. I didn't really ever skim. That's like a very easy indication for me when I'm no longer really enjoying a book, is I just start skimming, and I don't think I ever skimmed this. So many beautiful quotes in this. I mean, if I had my own copy, I definitely would have tabbed this. I will read some of my favorite quotes from this that I typed out. This is not all of them. You are dying. No, that came out wrong. What you meant to express was the existential grief that comes with the knowledge that all things die. You are not dying, except insofar as you have always been dying. What is a game? Mark said. It's tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow. It's the possibility of infinite rebirth, infinite redemption. The idea that if you keep playing, you could win. No loss is permanent, because nothing is permanent ever. There is no purity to bearing pain alone. So I've been trying to ask myself if I'm gonna buy my own copy of this. I kind of want to. I could see myself rereading it maybe someday just to tab it. Like, this really was a very sad book, but I loved so much of it. Oh, and I also loved that the title is from Macbeth. So like, I love Shakespeare. I've done so many Shakespeare plays. So knowing that the title is referencing Macbeth, I just love that. I also love the concept. There's this scene later in the book, this isn't a spoiler. Sam says to Sadie something like, "We would have been this in every world." And I love that concept. So yeah, I have a lot of indecision about this book. I rated it 4.5 stars. It's not quite a perfect 5-star, but then I'm asking myself, am I being too picky? Because if this isn't a 5-star, what is? But I'm gonna stick by that for now and say that this is a 4.5 star. Maybe I'll buy my own copy someday. We'll see, but highly recommend this one. And then I also started, just a little bonus content here, the Frugal, that's a hard word to say. The Frugal Wizard's Handbook for Surviving Medieval England by Brandon Sanderson. I gotta be honest, this has put me into a reading slump. So it's Brandon Sanderson, and in my mind I'm like, I have to finish this because it's Brandon Sanderson and I love him and he's a great writer and this is so quirky and different and I have to finish it. And it doesn't take me that long to read because the type is pretty spaced. I think it's 2-point spacing on this, but I'm on page 117 out of 3 something. So I'm going to try to finish this. And then I also picked up 2 other books from the library that frankly I don't know if I'm gonna get to. I think I was just trying to combat my brain in November by picking up more books, but both of these are very popular. The first one is Hello Beautiful by Anne Napolitano. Been seeing this everywhere. And then also When the Moon Hatched by Sarah A. Parker. Who knows if I'll get to these. And then lastly, I started The Labyrinth of Spirits by Carlos Ruiz Zafón. If you've watched my book content for a while, then you know that this is my favorite author. This is the 4th book in the Cemetery of Forgotten Books series. And I keep delaying reading it, and I'm not sure. It's probably because it's the last book technically in the series. I know there's another one, but it's really short. But I just don't want the magic to be over, I guess. But I am, I don't know if you can even see where, but this is an 800-page book, and I'm on page 135. Slowly but surely making my way through this one as well. So yeah, there you have it. Those are the 5 books plus a few others that I read in November. I just wanted to say that I'm sorry that I haven't been posting regularly. I just didn't have the motivation to do that for a few weeks, but I'm getting back on the grind now. I also just I'm not entirely sure what is desired of me on my YouTube channel. So I want to be of service in some way. I know this channel is a bit scattered. Sometimes I share philosophical things or talk about books or whatever interests me. But if there are things that you would like to see from me, then just let me know in the comments. And if I feel like a spark to a suggestion, then I would happily do that. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for making it this far in the video if you have. Don't forget to like and subscribe and hit that bell so that you know when I'll be posting next. I appreciate all of you so much. It's been amazing to see my channel almost basically double in just a short amount of time because I was consistent. It's what a concept. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.